Welcome inside the RxMuscle studios for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. 57 serve Isolized, $35 off this month only, limited edition. 57 serve Isolized available only at speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi, thanking you for joining us this Tuesday afternoon. Or is it Wednesday? It's Wednesday. I don't even know anymore. Tuesday. It is Tuesday afternoon, and for the next 30 minutes, Dave Palumbo is going to answer your questions. Training, diet, supplementations, IFBB pros, competitors, anything that is on your mind. And we know there's a lot on your mind, especially after last week's episode of Iron Debate. It is all free on the table as we bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, you have had your honesty and integrity questioned about 8 times over the course of the last 24 hours.
Sid, you've been dookied. That's what I say. You've been dookied. That's why you don't know what day it is or what time it is anymore. It's all over. We've all been dookied, I think. And Christian has called me a liar now. He's still carrying on about Romano was on drugs, and that's why I couldn't debate him. I said, you should have been able to do a better job if he was on drugs, but who knows. All right, let's get to Ask Dave. I don't want to give this any more attention. We're giving it too much attention already.
Adrian Knowles from the YouTube channel. If I gave you a bicep shot, the internet as we know it would cease to exist. So let's go to the questions. Dave, I hate your show, so I'd much rather stick my dangleberries in a NutriBullet. When are you coming to the UK? We need your diet course over here.
I am going to be a father in 6 weeks or less, and or more, but probably less. And, you know, it's hard for me to fly at this point, so probably not till next year if we did do it. And I need someone who is as organized as I am to organize this course there for me, so I just need to show up, teach it, and go home. And then you guys can have all the benefits of my wisdom and knowledge, and we can make it happy. Maybe we can have it in Dorian Yates' Dungeon Temple Gym. Who knows? But no, if someone wants to set it up and make it happen for me, I'll cut him in as a partner and we'll do it. But it's right now it's very hard for me to think about that. So I need someone else to do all the thinking for me.
We have Bilal Yahya checking in from Dubai, waking up early just to watch our show. We appreciate that as always. Lennyism, don't do overhead presses. Watch some Doug Brignall videos so you can understand why. Let's go to Victor Nelson. See, now we're going on the YouTube channel. For those of you that don't know, we are broadcasting live now on our YouTube channel. So if you have any questions or you want to join in on the conversation, the chat box is to the right-hand side. And this is a lot of fun. You guys, the RxMuscle community, I've said it all along, you guys are hilarious and you always bring it. Jorge Silva. All right, always late to the party. Let's start this party already. Are you ready to... Okay, well, a lot of partying here. Big Kappa Don, Dave, your show sucks worse than... You know, this is the one problem with YouTube. The questions keep jumping all over the place. Anytime somebody comments, Dave, the questions skip.
You lose it, yeah.
Yeah, I lose it, right. So, I mean, unless I try to highlight it, so a lot easier. You know what? I'm going to go...
Copy and paste it, Sid. That's what you do.
Well, they keep moving around. I'm going to go to the RxMuscle.com Muscle Central Forum. If you're not already a member, it is free to register. That, for those joining us for the first time, is where we have all our banter, all our analysis, anything and everything that we discuss, be it about IFBB Pros competition, about training, diet, supplementation, or anything that has to do with RxMuscle and our shows. It is on the Muscle Central Forum, RxMuscle.com. Let's go to Puma. I hate this show so much that I'd rather... Wait a minute. I'm getting a very important text. Continue without me. Okay, if you must know, it was from Lee Thompson. We're very tight. Anyway, what is your take on natural glucose disposal agents? I know you were not in favor of metformin, but is there any advantage for taking cinnamon, vanadyl sulfate, or chromium picolinate prior to ingesting carbs to reduce elevations in blood sugars?
Well, you know, if you have high blood sugars, you got a problem to begin with. I mean, you have to address that. Why do you have the problem? Is it genetic? Is it that you're eating too many grams of carbohydrates? Is it that you're taking too much growth hormone and making yourself insulin resistant? So you got to address what that issue is. Just taking things on top of that is not going to solve the problem. Now, so let's break it down. What is cinnamon, or what is chromium picolinate going to do? Chromium is just a cofactor in insulin use. So if your body needs insulin to absorb glucose, it needs chromium as a cofactor. So unless you're chromium deficient, taking chromium won't make you more insulin sensitive. And I'm assuming that most people out there are taking a good multivitamin, multimineral. So if that's the case, probably chromium won't do too much. Cinnamon has a little bit of insulin sensitivity issues. You know what the best insulin sensitizer is, believe it or not? Essential fatty acids, fish oils, palmitoleic acid, which is an omega-7 fat. Those two fats I have in my Omega-Lyse formula. And so if you're looking for insulin sensitivity, taking 3 Omega-Lyse twice a day will probably do the best for insulin sensitivity in a natural sense, okay? That will make you the most naturally sensitive to insulin. I believe, I'm very insulin sensitive. My blood sugars always run very, very good throughout my career. And I believe that's always because I was a big fish eater. Once again, fish oils have that insulin sensitizing effect. All the other natural glucose dispersing agents, not that great. Vanadyl sulfate actually has an insulin-like effect. The problem is it's very unpredictable. So you could take 1 or 2 pills of vanadyl sulfate and you're not really sure how much it's going to drop your blood sugar. So getting back to the original statement I made, if you have high blood sugars and they're uncontrollable, you might want to consider just taking an insulin. If they're running steadily high the whole day, 24 hours, you take Lantus insulin, which is what known as a basal insulin. It acts slowly and it'll just lower your blood sugar a little bit. If you're getting spikes after meals, you might need something like Humulin R or Humalog. And a lot of times in bodybuilders, it's because, number one, they're eating a lot of carbs on top of taking a lot of growth hormone. So the first thing I tell my guys to do is cut your growth hormone back, see if that solves the problem.
Tiago Alves wants to know the best exercise to build his back.
There's many different people who would say different things. And, we like to try to separate the back exercises into width exercises and density or thickness exercises. But really, in reality, they all kind of do the same thing. I was always, of the belief, and, I still believe it, that if you're looking for more width on your back, you pull-ups, pull-downs, not super wide grip. I know a lot of people think the wider grip you go, the more width you get. That's not true, because as you come further away from your body, you get weaker. So about shoulder, a little wider than shoulder width to me always worked best. Dorian Yates was a real big, narrow grip guy, and he had one of the biggest backs of all time. So width, you want to do your pull downs, your pull ups. For thickness and density, deadlifts. I like to do them off the floor, but some guys like to do them off the rack to take the legs out of the movement a little bit. Bent over rows is terrific for general. That's probably the best density builder. And then one arm rows, pulling nice and low for that lower lat. When Kai Green pulls those arms back and you see those lower lat striations, that's one arm rows.
Let's go to Murs. Dave, what are your thoughts on frequency training for natties? Many claim protein synthesis only lasts for 72 hours, which makes it a must to hit each muscle group twice a week for naturals. What do you think?
Well, first of all, there's no switch in your body that just says, protein synthesis on, protein synthesis off. It's a stimulus. It's stimulated by training. But, also you got to remember, you're only really growing, guess what, when you're resting. So I always tell people, and I've got a lot of questions about this recently, I have weak legs. Should I train my legs 3 times a week? When I had a weak body part, I trained it less frequently. More intensely on those days, I trained it, but less frequently. So instead of doing, say, my biceps 3 times a week, I did them once every 8 days instead of every 7 days, and I found that they grew better. So if you have weaker legs or weaker back, train it intensely, but give it more rest. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I promise you it will work.
Let's go to Bendik Klungsoyer. Apologies if I mispronounced the name. Does creatine that is not micronized have to be dissolved in water to be absorbable in the body? It dissolves great in warm water, but cold water won't cut it. Is there anything to this? Hate the show.
If creatine does not dissolve in a liquid, which means becomes solubilized, guess what? You don't absorb it. Okay, you can't absorb the crystals out of your into your intestinal tract. They got to get into solution, become solubilized, and that's one of the issues with creatine. That's why grinding it up into a fine dust, micronizing it, so to speak, will make it much more easily absorbed or solubilized, because there's more surface area now for the water molecule to work on. So we're coming out with a new creatine product, the creatine monohydrate product with no flavor, just something you can add to your shakes and stuff like that. And we will come out with a super micronized version of it so that it will really dissolve more easily. And you're still not going to get 100% solubility. So the more granulated or thicker it is, the less likely it is to dissolve. The more micronized it is, the easier it will dissolve. Adding hot water to the creatine will solubilize it more, just like it will to salt water, but it could also damage the molecule. So you don't want to turn your creatine into creatinine, which is the waste product. So don't put you can put a little bit of warm water, don't put hot water in there, is what I'm saying.
You know what's really cool about this, the fact that we're on the YouTube channel, we're getting greetings from all around the world. I'm seeing Portugal, Brazil, Dubai, and Bilal Yahya from Dubai. Dave wants to know, when is Species coming to Dubai?
It's a good question. Right now, I am working with a deal out with Bader Badai, a good friend at Oxygen Gym in Kuwait, and I know he's excited to bring Species Nutrition into Kuwait. And once he does, I know he'll start bringing it into Dubai and some of the other Middle Eastern countries. So that's going to be exciting. Hopefully, it will be sooner than later. But as you guys know, paperwork sucks, and we got to fill out millions and millions of forms, and provide formulas and all kinds of, the boring stuff like that no one really wants to hear about. Me too. I have all my people in the office doing it. But it will be there, I promise you, hopefully in early 2016.
We got greetings from Norway, from Portugal. Again, you're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. 30-minute question and answer television show. We do this weekly with Dave Palumbo. The best overall question and the best I hate the show. For those of you who don't know, typically shows include fans that call in or chime in and say, hey, I love the show. Well, Dave put a twist on it. Said if you really like the show, if you really watch or listen to the show, tell us that you hate the show so we know you're actually paying attention. You will win Nitralized Pre-Workout by Species Nutrition. Let's go to Jose Ramirez. Can your body transform fat into carbs to restore glycogen after training?
Someone asked me that question yesterday, and in reality, there might be a slight ability of that to turn some of the carbon atoms from the fatty acids into carbs, but very inefficient process. I would say zero chance. Way more likely to turn amino acids directly, not only into glucose, which we know is gluconeogenesis, but actually there's a process that Dr. Scott Conley, the original inventor of metrics, told me about, where you can actually turn amino acids directly into glycogen. So you can turn it into stored glucose directly. So that's the process that will happen in the absence of carbohydrates. Your body will take amino acids and turn them into glucose or glycogen for that matter. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. That's why we like to replace glycogen with glucose or some kind of carbohydrate source.
We go back to the Muscle Central forum again. That is our main forum for RxMuscle.com. For those that are not registered, it is free to register. It's a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to meet some great people in the industry. And, of course, some of the top minds in the industry on the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. We go to Rob99577. Dave, what is your opinion on ALR Industries HumaPro? Is it as good or better than any other protein sources? Is it more beneficial than BCAAs?
I am not a big advocator of these, powders that kind of contain a couple of amino acids and pretend to be better than whole foods or, whole protein shakes, specifically whey isolates, even whole egg, protein type shakes. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't really believe that it will say what it does or does do what it says it does in that sense. And I think a BCAA product is probably a little more potent than that. Once again, I'm a big advocator of, as you guys know, of whey protein isolates for recovery after workouts, even as meal replacements during the day. If you're going to take, and it goes back to the old, adage, if you're going to increase the power efficiency of your Ferrari or your car out there, you're going to put the high test gas in there. You might even go get Cam 4 or Cam 2, I think it's called Cam 2 fuel, which is, like 102 octane to make the car perform better. I think that, price dictates a lot of times the quality of what you're buying out there. And when you see an amino acid, drink, or you see something like HumaPro, and I'm not bad-mouthing the product because it might be a good product, but the prices are much less and much lower. There's a reason, because they don't cost as much to make, and the reason is because those amino acids, 98% of the amino acids out on the market are made from human hair, believe it or not. They take human hair, they get them in China, they got a lot of hair there, and they digest it and they make branched chain aminos out of that. And that's the source of it. Whey isolate is garnished from dairy, from milk. They isolate out the whey protein component, leaving behind the lactose, and that's a whole food product. So much more efficient, much better product, and it's gonna, if you're looking to maximize muscle gains and recovery, if I was the person out there picking, I would choose the whey isolate every time.
Let's go to Tariq Sechic. Hi Dave, on refeed days, how many carbs do you advise? I'm on a low carb diet and do refeed every 7 to 10 days. Do you advise clean food or a combination with cheat meal? I am 235 pounds and need 800 grams of carbs to fill.
Well, everyone's different. I don't really do a refeed day. I do a cheat meal once a week with my athletes. And I'll tell you why. Because if I just tell an athlete, you know what, I want you to have 50 or 60 grams of carbs per meal times 6 meals for the day, or whatever it is, 70 grams of carbs times 6, whatever it is, on clean carbs, it doesn't seem to affect their metabolism that much. They fill up glycogen-wise, but sometimes their metabolism still stays stagnant. When I give them a cheat meal, one meal, because if you eat the whole day like that, you're gonna sabotage yourself. The only person who can get away with that is Juan Morel. But if you're a normal person, one cheat meal per week, okay? Some kind of sloppy, some kind of food that you really enjoy, some people like to go for pasta and baked ziti. Some people go all-you-can-eat sushi, the real heavy rolls. Some people like to go to McDonald's. Whatever your cravings are, you go there, you have that. And for some reason, that junky, greasy, whatever food you're having has an effect on the metabolism that it skyrockets it. And it's not, you can't really do enough damage in an hour or two of one meal where you're going to set yourself back. And I think that's an issue. So to me, I would rather give a little less carbs, because how many grams of carbs can you eat in one meal? Maybe 200-300. I'd rather give a little less carbs than you might do 800 for the day. But for some reason, it's the other components of the fats and the protein in there, and the fact that it's just something you don't eat on a regular basis that has a better, more dynamic effect on the metabolism.
Let's go back to the RxMuscle.com Muscle Central Forum and check in with Akhenaton. Since I hate this show so much, I'll say the unsayable. I love this show, there, smiley face. Dear Dave, for a person who is in hormone replacement therapy around 150 to 175 mg of test every 10 days for a year by now, should one be worried about the occasional itchy nipple? It might be psychological, but it seems to become mildly painful when eating protein bars, which, as we know, are usually filled with soy. Your thoughts? Hatefully yours, Akhenaton.
Ingesting soy protein, or any kind of soy for that matter, is not going to make your estrogen levels skyrocket. Okay, so let's take that off the table. When you're taking even hormone replacement, you're taking testosterone, an exogenous source. The aromatase enzymes in the body can act on that testosterone, and it's usually very genetically, I guess you could say, laid out. In other words, each person is different. Some people aromatize more than others do. So when I took hormone replacement, I didn't aromatize very much at all, probably because I have no fat cells. Because a lot of the aromatization comes from the fat cells. So I didn't even need to take an aromatase inhibitor. But I know guys who take 100 milligrams of testosterone a week, and they go for blood work and their testosterone's low and their estrogen's through the roof, which means they're converting most of the testosterone they're injecting into estrogen. In those cases, you really want to take an aromatase inhibitor, maybe 0.5 milligram every other day of Arimidex. When you're on hormone replacement dosages, if you take too much Arimidex or any kind of aromatase inhibitor, you can lower your estrogen too low, and then you're going to lose your sex drive. You're not going to grow as well. So err on the side of moderation. But if you're getting nipple sensitivity, it does mean you have estrogen. And the best way to find out what that issue is go for blood work. you can't really guess at how high your estrogen is. Go and get it read. That's the easiest way to find out, especially being on hormone replacement. It's such a regular thing you're doing. So it's not like 1 week you're taking 800 milligrams, and the next you're taking 200. You're taking 100, 200 milligrams every single week. So it's way easier to go for blood work and see how much you're aromatizing.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Tomorrow afternoon at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be back with Iron Debate. We're going to be featuring John Mountain Dog Meadows. So for those of you who said, we want some serious bodybuilders with some big opinions, you're going to get that tomorrow afternoon, 4:15 p.m. Iron Debate with John Mountain Dog Meadows. It's going to be so much fun watching him now in the pro ranks. Saw him get his pro card last year, and obviously that was a huge moment. And you're going to get to see him live here on RxMuscle.com. I hate this show so much, I'd rather eat schnitzel one day before contest. Any plans of Species Nutrition coming to Germany and Austria?
Yeah, I want Species everywhere in the world, so if there are any great distributors out there in Germany or Austria who want to bring it in, contact me, huge285@AOL.com. We'll talk. We do have a distributor in the UK, Predator Nutrition, who's just filling, they have a lot of the products. They'll have more, obviously, as the paperwork gets done. And it's a process, but like I said, if there are guys out there who are distributors, who know distributors, pass on our information, tell them you want Species, because the more people that demand it, the more the distributors will reach out to us and want to bring the product in.
Let's go back to our YouTube stream and go to Diesel. Dave, how does IGF-L3 work without suppressing natural GH levels?
Well, long R3 IGF-1 is obviously a isoform of IGF-1. What they have done is added side groups onto the IGF-1 molecule so that the body doesn't recognize it. The binding proteins in the bloodstream don't recognize it and neutralize it, because that's what they do. If there's too much IGF-1, the blood proteins will grab it and turn it off. The long R3 happens to be able to avoid the binding proteins a little longer. Why doesn't IGF-1 suppress natural GH? Well, natural GH is pulsed out of the body. It's not released, and it doesn't work on a typical feedback loop. So when you sleep, that's an impetus for your body to pulse growth hormone. When you, for instance, get done with a workout, that training effect is a pulse of GH is released. In the morning, GH is the lowest. It doesn't really get released because cortisol level is the highest. So that's why I recommend people take the growth hormone in the morning. If you take a shot of GH or IGF-1 right before bed, you'll probably won't release your own natural form of it. So don't take IGF-1, or GH when you naturally produce it. Now, the one exception to that rule would be post-workout, because post-workout you will release a little GH, but the IGF-1 that ensues following that GH release is so small compared to the growth hormone injection that you're going to take. I prefer to have guys take the IGF-1 post-workout, take your growth hormone shots in the morning, and then let your body naturally produce the GH throughout the day, especially before bed. That's while you sleep is when you get your biggest pulse.
Let's go back to the RxMuscle.com Muscle Central Forum and go to, it's either Nigster or Neister. Okay, let me get my hands on this, i.e. my first question to ask Dave, even though I hate the show. Why? My wife got a miscarriage for listening to this show. I guess the fetus hated your mumble too and decided to quit before even to begin. Well done. Dave, your opinion and thought about saw palmetto as a supplement, should and could it be used?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in saw palmetto for limiting DHT production, dihydrotestosterone. Remember, not only does testosterone convert to estrogen in the body, it can convert to DHT. And as a matter of fact, if you block estrogen production, you'll get more DHT production. So you really have to balance the aromatase, the blocking of estrogen production, and the production of DHT production. So I have a product called, and I've talked about this before, Testolize, that we sell at speciesnutrition.com, that blocks not only estrogen, it blocks DHT production. By blocking both pathways, more testosterone can stay as testosterone, and then we can also pump up the amount of testosterone that's released via testosterone boosters. And then any extra estrogen that does get produced, we can bind that up with indole 3-carbinol and diindole methane and flush that out of the body. So Testolize kind of addresses all the aspects of testosterone. But, if you do have high DHT levels, which once again, the best way to confirm that is go for blood work. When you go for blood work, get your testosterone checked, your estrogen, your DHT, and your cortisol. I would even recommend getting prolactin checked as well. You check those hormones. Now you can address the issues. If you have high estrogen or high DHT or both, then you got to take something that blocks both. Likewise, if you have high estrogen and you block that effect, you can get high DHT. So you really want to always think about addressing both the DHT and the estrogen.
Let's hop over to our Instagram page at instagram.com/officialRxMuscle. You know what? We're going to go back to our YouTube channel. A lot of people from Greece here. A lot of people chiming and saying they are from Greece. Let's go to Elmo Hasapasi. Dave, what are your thoughts about doctors using Clomid as a test booster for people that need TRT? Pros and cons.
Well, Clomid kind of works the way Nolvadex does. It's an estrogen receptor blocker. It blocks receptors for estrogen, which when it does that in the hypothalamus of our brain, it can increase the amount of luteinizing LH hormone or FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, which can ultimately increase natural testosterone, theoretically. It does it to a certain degree, but it's not significant, I think, enough where you're going to see muscle gains from that. Now, it's great if you're trying to get, your wife or girlfriend pregnant because natural testosterone production will result in higher sperm production. Okay, so that's why a lot of people use Clomid, okay, to help their fertility. Now, one other thing, I guess you could say post-cycle, after you stop a steroid cycle, the way we turn back the body's natural production of testosterone is, first of all, we stimulate the testicles directly with HCG. Then we give Clomid to turn the pituitary and the hypothalamus back on. So Clomid has a use for certain for turning the body back on during PCT. Not a great muscle builder long-term use. And a lot of guys get very emotional and they get weird. They feel very weird when they're on Clomid. Never happened to me, but I know a lot of guys tell me they get sad and they get weird emotional stuff going on because theoretically, Clomid is a synthetic estrogen. It just doesn't act like estrogen in the body. So, on a receptor level, but it could still, have I guess you could say the mental effects of estrogen.
Let's go to our Instagram page again. Our Instagram handle is instagram.com/official_RxMuscle. Let's go to J.Nesmith. I hate this show so much. I'd rather watch an episode of Iron Debate hosted by Flex Magazine featuring Christian Duke and George Farah having a debate and waiting for each other to wait their turn to talk about internet policing and trolling policies.
That might be a winner right there, Sid.
You know what, J. Nesmith? Sid at SpeciesNutrition.com. You, my friend, win Neutralized by Species Nutrition. Giving the new division, will you be taking on competitors who are entering classic physique? I hear often of your bodybuilders you work with, but have yet to hear anyone heading to the new division. If not, why cut back?
I'll definitely be I'll probably be working with more classic physique guys than bodybuilders before it's all done because, look, that's bodybuilding. That's going to be another division of bodybuilding. I'm excited about it. I talked to Steve Weinberg about the division. They're going to be as long as you make that weight class for your height, they're going to treat it like bodybuilding. They want to see conditioning. They want to see muscle. And, of course, symmetry is important as well. But that's going to mean you're going to have to get in the best shape of your life, and that's a bodybuilding diet. So I'm super excited about the new division, and I'm excited to be working with guys who are going to enter that. I have a lot of athletes right now who are switching over to that division, but I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of new up-and-coming athletes who will be contacting me as well.
I'm sorry, but so for those of you that don't or that are new to our channel, we have many original feature shows, including this one, Ask Dave, 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. We have Iron Debate, which is our CNN Crossfire type debate show about all topics in the bodybuilding world. We have a women's talk show called The Fitness View. We have a one-on-one format show called Live With. These are all available, by the way, on our YouTube channel. So past episodes, all Lee Haney, Sergio Oliva Jr., we had him on last week, and so many more available on our YouTube
And by
channel.
popular demand, Christian Duke.
And now we're starting to get the Dukeisms, I guess, as we're going to coin it. So this one is from THC Ice Cream. I hate this show so much, I'd rather listen to Christian Duke go on about all his friends in the NPC and IFBB while he's regularly taking breaks to check his phone for messages from people of great importance, while he's really on forums claiming that Kai placing second at the Arnold would demolish his whole legacy and marketability just as it did with Ronnie and Jay. Let's go to Dek Niliev. Hey, Dave, can I substitute brown rice with oats? Because I love oats, and they are much easier to cook. Would that change make any difference to my performance and shape? I normally use 100 grams of oats for breakfast and then 200 grams of brown rice divided in my 3 pre-workout meals. Then post, I eat 100 grams of white rice, and that's about all the carbs I'm having. I'm 198 pounds, contest weight.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, oatmeal and brown rice, glycemically speaking, are pretty comparable, and I think that that's a definitely a fine substitution.
Let's go to Muffin Junkie. I hate this show so much I'd rather go to Naked Camp and do BBQ of balls for the bowl for dinner as a protein source while listening to George Farrah's directions to consume 500 grams carbs per day and use DMP for my upcoming show. Dave, how to reduce hemoglobin level, control blood pressure, and take care of the kidneys on and off cycle?
Well, I said it before, I'll say it again, and every time I make the announcement, I get a million emails following the show. But, I have a 3-week detoxification program that I've designed, and, Johnny forgot to switch the camera on me. 3-week detoxification program that I've designed to help cleanse the body, to, reduce toxins, to give the kidneys and the liver a break, to help them regenerate. And if you guys send me a request at huge285@AOL.com, I'll send you the program for nothing. It's be my pleasure. I know I talked about Triple H doing it. He felt great. He's growing like a weed. The best way to grow muscle is to get rid of all the junk in your body first. So that's super important. Now, what was the first part of the question, Sid?
Let me see. I have to go back down to it. I was going to go to another question.
I think I forgot part of it.
It was with the one about 500. Oh, no, that was the George Farrah thing.
Yeah, that's it.
About taking care of kidneys and on and off cycle. That was a question.
Okay. While you're on cycle, I have a product called Kidney Stuff that a lot of people have used very successfully. I have a lot of bodybuilders and just general people who have contacted me about having high creatinine and BUN levels. They added in the Kidney Stuff and boom, it all dropped. And I use it on a regular basis. That's something you might want to consider using. You might want to also add some milk thistle, also known as silymarin, which is the active ingredient in there. You can pick that up anywhere. I really like the European milk thistle that Life Extension sells. You can go there at lifeextension.com. You can buy it on Amazon and use that daily. So the Kidney Stuff and the liver milk thistle on a regular basis. And then, when you come off cycle, you do my 3-week detox once a year, and I think it'd be fine.
Isakin93, I hate this show so much. I'd rather follow George Farrah's contest diet to hold crap load of water to supply the whole of Africa with water. Let's go to the Andrew Addison. I hate this show so much, I'd rather listen to Jimmy the Bull talk about how much he hates seeing ass all over Facebook. What is the best way for a tall bodybuilder to fill out? More food or higher anabolics or both?
How about heavy training? Let's not forget that. The most important part of the formula. A lot of people think, I just got to eat more and I got to take more drugs. Look, the working out, this is the stimulus for the muscle growth. If you don't lift heavy and you don't stimulate those muscles in the gym, you could take all the drugs and eat all the food in the world and you are not going to grow muscle. Okay? It's a 3-tiered approach. The drugs are a very minor stimulus for muscle growth. Okay, but you need to get into that gym and stimulate that muscle, and then you need to feed yourself properly. And that, every person is different. So we can't just say you got to eat this much because you might have to eat this much. Once again, the gym is just as important, and that means don't overtrain either, especially being a big guy. Stimulate, don't annihilate, as Lee Haney said.
We're gonna take 2 more from our YouTube channel. The first one from Enrique Silva: can cardio increase muscle gain? Obviously, if you adds weight to it.
No. You ever see a big endurance athlete? You ever see like a marathon runner with big legs? They work their legs more than anyone, but their legs are small, right? Okay. Now you might see a big sprinter because sprinters do short bursts of explosive type movements. Once again, if you want to get big, long duration is not the way to do it. You stimulate it, you get out of the gym. That's the best way to grow.
Somebody asked if Jimmy the Bull has low estrogen. This question from Eat That Fitness. None of these asked like 2-3 times. We're gonna ask it right here. Is it common to use 2 nandrolone compounds in one cycle for any purpose? Has everyone the same high prolactin side effects? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
When you use 19-nor testosterone-derived compounds like DECA and even Trenbolone to that degree, you don't aromatize into estrogen. So estrogen doesn't become a real big deal. Likewise, DHT production is very low as well. So I had a doctor friend of mine who would only take the 19-nor testosterone derivatives because he didn't want to lose his hair. And, did it work? No, he didn't grow more hair back, but he didn't lose any more hair. So I guess maybe to a certain degree it did work. But when you take these 19-nor testosterone compounds, you can raise prolactin levels. And prolactin in the body, can inhibit sex drive to a certain degree. And that's why some people get the, quote, DECA dick. They say they can't get an erection because it's usually because of the high prolactin levels. Likewise, high prolactin can cause nipple discharge. It doesn't really cause the gynecomastia in the sense of the way estrogen makes the glands grow. It kind of causes the glands to discharge or create some kind of like a milky secretion or mucousy secretion. So we don't want super high prolactin levels. Now, I know guys that take a lot of 19-nor derived testosterone type products. I did that, and I never had any prolactin issues. So, you don't know until you try it. Once again, blood work will yield that. If you do have high prolactin levels, you could take something like Dostanex, 0.5 milligram 2-3 times a week, and that will lower prolactin levels. So, I went to a doctor years ago who serviced a lot of bodybuilders, and he said, he told me something very smart. Don't just start taking knee-jerk, drugs to block this, to block that. Get your blood work first and see what's high, and then address that. Because a lot of times people address issues that don't even exist.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. It was a lot of fun between our YouTube channel, our Instagram page, the forum. We're getting a ton of questions. This is why we do this, to answer your questions. So we appreciate the support from our RxMuscle community. And of course, from our fans from around the world. Reminder, tomorrow afternoon, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are back with Iron Debate featuring John Mountain Dog Meadows. Dave, do you want to say something?
No, I wanted to also mention that, John Romano will be there as well, Chris Aceto, and of course yours truly. And if you guys really like what you're watching, especially now that we're doing these live broadcasts on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel below and show us the love so that we know that you guys are supporting what we're doing.
For Johnny Styles, Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you tomorrow, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on RxMuscle.com.